You guys have a good holiday season? I sure did, and with the new year around the corner, there will be new games to explore. We're fast approaching the Steam Deck's 3rd anniversary, and so the big question now is whether or not these games will continue to run on the Steam Deck well, and that's what this video is for, looking at new releases. As per usual, we'll be talking about games releasing this month, and whether or not they'll work well on Steam Deck or not. But before that, if you liked this video, please like, subscribe, and share with all of your friends. Spreading the good gospel of high-tech lowlife really helps me out in the YouTube algorithm. Beyond Citadel is a boomer shooter inspired by anime, more specifically, gothic anime. It's actually a sequel to a game called The Citadel, and that played more like Marathon, if you can believe it. If this sequel is anything like The Citadel, then it's going to be gory, and it's going to have insanely detailed gore, and, let's be perfectly frank, a lot of carnage. The first game is a lot of fun, but it's also quite grotesque and it's pretty difficult all things considered. Not to mention the game doesn't have official controller support, which isn't a deal breaker on the Steam Deck, but it is worth mentioning because, well, you have a lot of keyboard inputs. The first game ran quite well, so I have no reason to believe this one wouldn't. But you never know. This game releases right after New Year's on January the 2nd. Do you like fishing mini games? Then this game is entirely that. It's a fishing RPG where battles are conducted via fishing mechanics. People really do enjoy fishing minigames in their games, but do people enjoy full fishing games? You know, one that's essentially a full-fledged RPG? I would imagine so, right? As advertised, this game isn't a peaceful fishing game, but it's a game with high stakes, especially in regards to fishing. As a 2D JRPG, I have no reason to believe that this wouldn't run well on Steam Deck. And this game releases on January the 7th. S4U City Punk 2011 and Love Punch is a game that I've actually covered during the Steam Deck Next Fest. It's billed as a sort of adventure game, something like, I don't know, Phoenix Wright almost. From what I've played of the demo, the game is actually pretty fun, and it's pretty well written all things considered. But the rest of the game still awaits. This game does require typing, though the game automates its typing responses, but you still need to press like keyboard keys to type stuff in, you know? The game does work on Steam Deck, or at least the demo worked quite well on Steam Deck, so I have no reason to believe that it wouldn't here. And this game releases on January the 8th. Freedom Wars is a PS Vita game that kind of plays like a third-person shooter Monster Hunter of sorts. I honestly thought this game would never leave the Vita, but here we are. The game's getting remastered. Your job is to ultimately take up jobs from the prison in order to reduce your 1 million year sentence. While the game is remastered, I still think the game would run pretty well on Steam Deck, all things considered. I mean, it was a Vita game to begin with. Freedom Wars Remastered releases on January the 9th. Cruel is what appears to be a roguelike boomer shooter of sorts, and boomer shooters are back in vogue it seems. The game looks pretty fun, it's gory, it's grotesque, and honestly, I want to try it out. These games are generally enjoyed best with keyboard and mouse, but thankfully the Steam Deck has a gyro that's easy to set up. While it looks more graphically demanding than most boomer shooters, it probably doesn't demand much in terms of graphics. So I think this game will run pretty well on Steam Deck. Cruel also releases on January the 9th. Unless is a 2D precision platformer a lot like Celeste. It's easy to pick up but hard to master. You've got plenty of easy levels but also plenty of difficult levels as well. Again, I have no reason to believe that this game wouldn't run well on Steam Deck. But just be careful not to throw your Steam Deck out of the window in case you die a lot or something. Unless releases on January the 10th. Neog League is a sports game featuring parkouring robots with swords. The trailer I grabbed from Steam still says December 2024, but evidently the game seems to have been delayed. Now, the game is said to be free to play, which means it's probably going to be like a live service game. While I do see this game running well on Steam Deck, the big question is whether or not they'll enable anti-cheat support, if this game has anti-cheat that is. And while the trailer says December 2024, the actual release date for this game in early access is January the 10th. Hyperlight Breaker is an interesting one. It's a prequel to Hyperlight Drifter, but instead of being a 2D action-adventure game, instead it's a 3D roguelike co-op game. I feel like one of the main draws behind Hyperlight Drifter was its beautiful pixel art and, well, it's 3D. I am noticing an interesting trend where follow-ups to successful 2D pixel art games are in 3D. Like Risk of Rain 2 was one such game. Wizards of Legends 2 is one such game as well, and now we have Hyperlight Breaker. But of course I am still interested in this game, and hopefully we'll be able to play as the Drifter from Hyperlight Drifter. As for Steam Deck compatibility, well, personally I don't think the game looks super graphically demanding, so it'll probably run well on Steam Deck. But also the developers have said the Steam Deck is a priority, and supposedly in the Discord, one of the developers said they highly recommend it on the Steam Deck, which is good. It's good, yeah. That means the game should probably run well on Steam Deck. Hyperlight Breaker goes into early access January the 14th. I've actually covered the Blade Chimera demo as part of the Steam Deck Next Fest, but essentially it's Team Ladybug's brand new Metroidvania not based on an existing IP. You hunt demons with your gun, your sword, and your demon companion in this sort of cyberpunk universe. And Team Ladybug tends to make great Metroidvanias, but I kind of wish they were a little longer. And I'm hoping this game's a little longer too. Now obviously this game really has no issue running on the Steam Deck, and yes, I've tried the demo too, and yes, that runs quite well on Steam Deck as well. Blade Chimera releases on January the 16th. Tales of Grace's F Remastered is, naturally, the remastered version of Tales of Grace's F, which in turn was a PS3 port of the original Tales of Grace's, which was a Wii exclusive at the time. Is it a bad time to mention that the only Tales game I've ever played was Tales of Vesperia? No? Okay, that's fine. I've been meaning to get into the Tales series, but to be honest, I just haven't had the time. In terms of running well on the Steam Deck, I have no reason to believe this game wouldn't run well on Steam Deck. Tales of Grace's F Remastered also releases on January the 16th. Tyrants Realm is an action-adventure roguelike. It looks more like a Souls-like, but it definitely gives off King's Field vibes. What's genuinely surprising is that I don't think I've seen a roguelike with Souls-like combat. Like, I'm kind of shocked we didn't have a roguelike Souls-like before this game, and also Elden Ring Night Rain, which isn't coming out anytime soon. I will say the roguelike and Souls-like genres tend to be diametrically opposed, but I am curious to see how this game actually shakes out. That said, there is a demo available right now if you want to try it out. I think this game's gonna run pretty well on Steam Deck, and this game also releases on January the 16th. For those not in the know, Dynasty Warriors is based on China's most famous novel that isn't Journey to the West. Instead, the franchise is based on Romance of the Three Kingdoms. In Dynasty Warriors' origin supposedly takes us back to the very beginning. You are a nameless protagonist, an original character, and unlike most games where you have an original character, this one's not customizable. As for how this game will run, I mean, Dynasty Warriors is most famous for stuffing the field with enemies, like thousands and thousands of enemies that you can kill all at once with a single combo. So one has to wonder if this game will run well on Steam Deck, and I'm more inclined to believe that maybe it'll run well on Steam Deck, but maybe not as well. But whatever the case is, this game will release on January the 16th as well. Wow, lots of releases during then, huh? Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was a PS5 exclusive for some time, but now it's coming to PC and Steam Deck. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was nominated for Game of the Year, and for pretty good reason all things considered. Now for the big question, will this run on Steam Deck? Square Enix says they're making Steam Deck optimization a priority, so maybe it'll run well on Steam Deck, but will it be a 30 FPS or 60 FPS? Well, it's hard to know. But Final Fantasy VII Remake releases on January the 23rd. Sin Duality Echo of Ada is a PvPvE extraction shooter where you pilot a giant robot. I don't know what to say about this. In addition to having your giant bipedal mecha, you also have a magus that you can use to essentially have abilities, I guess? I'm not entirely sure. Despite the fact that this is most presumably an online game, this is listed as a single player game for whatever reason. Honestly, I think this game lives and dies by how you can customize your mech, because to be honest, it looks like there isn't really much customization aside from like weapons and colors, I guess. What about giving us tank treads for legs? Or what about tetrapods like an armored core? Now that's something I want to see. I think this game looks like it could run well on Steam Deck, but the big question is if this game has anti-cheat, and if that'll support the Steam Deck or not. This game also releases on January the 23rd. Star Wars Episode 1 Jedi Power Battles is a classic re-release of a game that was released for the PlayStation 1 and then the Dreamcast. It's a PS1 style brawler slash hack and slash. As the name implies, yes, this is based on the Phantom Menace. And yes, I firmly believe this game will run quite well on Steam Deck. I mean, why wouldn't it, right? As per re-releasing all of these games is, quite frankly, insane. And it's awesome that they're going through the effort of remastering all of these for a modern generation. And this game also releases on January the 23rd. Wow, that's crazy. Speaking of crazy, Virtua Fighter is coming back, and while Virtua Fighter 6 is currently in development, this game is about to be released pretty soon. This is Virtua Fighter 5 Revo. Virtua Fighter has a reputation for being one of the most technical fighters you can play. Heck, even the main protagonist that in theory, is supposed to be one of the more accessible characters, Akira Yuki is quite difficult to play, and I've only dabbled in Virtua Fighter a little bit, but I can feel it. It's quality stuff. Like, this is seriously big stuff. We're finally getting Virtua Fighter on PC. The game's also being built on the Dragon engine, which is the same engine that powers the Yakuza titles, so I'm certain this game will run quite well on Steam Deck. Virtua Fighter 5 Revo releases on January the 27th. Now, I kinda have to talk about this game because this is like the funniest thing that could have happened. Yosuga No Sora is coming to Steam, and I never would have seen this coming, and not in a million years. All I really have to say about this visual novel is that this game isn't very family friendly, despite the fact that some of the fans may tell you that it is, in fact. Also apparently being released is the fan disc as well. Now, to be frank, this is Japanese only. There's still no English translation, and I'm pretty sure no one's bringing this over to the West, in English at least. I mean, it's a visual novel. This game will run well on Steam Deck. Just don't play it in public, okay? Yosuga No Sora and the fan disc releases on Steam on January the 27th. You know, speaking of which, we're getting another former PS5 exclusive, this time in the form of Marvel's Spider-Man 2. So Spider-Man 2 actually came out last year, October of 2023, and it's releasing sometime in January of 2025. That's a difference of about 1 year, 3 months, which is crazy. I thought it would be at least 2 years before we'd get this game, like in October or something. Honestly, just swinging around as Spider-Man is fun by itself, but the combat is also really fun as well. I mean, I haven't played the second game, but the first game was really good. Nicsis usually does a great job with porting games over to PC, and so I'm inclined to believe this game will also run really well on Steam Deck. The big question though is, will you need a PSN account? Probably. Spider-Man 2 releases on January the 30th. The only thing I really know about Sniper Elite is the X-ray kills. Like, when you kill someone with your sniper shot, it shows you in grisly detail what your shot is actually doing to whoever you're killing. Like, if you're shooting them in the balls, you can see their testicles being exploded, and it's kinda funny. Aside from that though, I don't really know much else about the series besides the fact that it's also a third-person like stealth shooter. I'm not entirely sure how it plays though, to be honest. But honestly, it looks pretty fun. I want to play it. I'm gonna pick up one of the older ones. And I think the graphics do look pretty good, but I don't think they're super demanding in the way that most AAA games are, so I think this game will actually run quite well on Steam Deck. But you never know. Regardless though, this game releases on January the 30th. Now, some of you may be wondering why I'm covering Hello Kitty Island Adventure, and that's for one specific reason.
I don't play World of Warcraft.
Butters, you said you're on your computer all the time.
Yeah, but I'm playing Hello Kitty Island Adventure.
Yeah, that was an episode of South Park from 2006 talking about World of Warcraft. Hello Kitty Island Adventure is finally a real game, and it kind of looks like Animal Crossing. Funny enough, this game was already on Apple Arcade, but now it's going to be available on Nintendo Switch and PC, which is kind of crazy. And I mean, come on, this game's going to be on the Nintendo Switch. I'm sure this game's going to run fine on Steam Deck. But the more interesting question is whether or not they'll turn another South Park joke into a real game, like Chin Pokemon or Heroin Hero. Hello Kitty Island Adventure releases on January the 30th. Now, I've never played the original Citizen Sleeper, but I have played the demo for Citizen Sleeper 2 Starward Vector, and it's an interesting dice-based RPG. Kinda gives off tabletop vibes, to be honest. Lots of hard choices need to be made, and depending on the dice rolls, you may succeed or you may fail catastrophically. I've played the demo, and the demo runs great on Steam Deck, and it's honestly a pretty good fit. But the big question now is, how does the rest of the game hold up after the point where the demo ends? That's the big mystery, and I guess we'll find out on January the 31st. And now let's talk about games that don't have a specific release date but are supposed to be releasing sometime this month. First of which is Oyasumi. It's a game that looks like it takes inspiration from the likes of Yumi Nikki, but also, more importantly, LSD Dream Emulator. I've played the demo on Steam Deck, and yes, it works. It doesn't have true controller support, but the full game is supposed to have true controller support, so there's that too. It's sort of hard to describe this. It is kind of like a walking simulator, but it is an experience in and of itself, and it kind of has to be played to be believed, and there's a demo available too. This game's supposed to release sometime this month. Another game that's supposed to be releasing this month is Needy Streamer Overload, Typing of the Net. Now, this one's going to be a lot harder to play on Steam Deck because it's a typing game. I mean, come on, have you ever played Typing of the Dead? You have to use a keyboard for that. Now, instead of typing out like real words and phrases, you're typing out internet lingo. Words like weeaboo or she's like me for real. Stuff like this is super fun, and yes, you could technically play this on the Steam Deck. There is dual trackpad typing after all, but you'll want a keyboard for this. Finally, it's a good time to flex my keyboards and my 100 words per minute typing. January is an interesting time to release games because a lot of people spend a lot of money during December for the holidays, so they may not have enough money to buy a new game in January. But regardless, January games, here we are. Here are the first games of 2025. Lots of variety and even lots of different tentpole releases, even if most of them are in fact ports of other exclusive games that were on PS5. I can't believe this will be my last video of the year. So all I'm gonna say is Happy New Year's, and hopefully your year next year is gonna be a little better. If you like this video, please press the like button and check out our other videos, and if you like those other videos as well, be sure to press the subscribe button and share the good gospel of high-tech lowlife with your friends. Furthermore, we have a community Discord for enlightened individuals such as you. And if you wish to further support high-tech lowlife, be sure to check out our Patreon page. Links in the description.